Hello learners, and welcome to today's lesson of multiplication and division of integers, where we are going to be focusing on practice and application questions. Let's go on with our lesson. So we are going to start with multiplication and division. Remember, we are working with integers. This means that we are working with positive numbers, we are also working with negative numbers. And we need to know that if we multiply or divide either two positive numbers or two negative numbers, or a positive number and a negative number, what the answer will look like. So let's look at number 1 here. We have a positive 4 multiplied by a negative 4. Now, we are multiplying a positive number with a negative number. That means that our answer is going to be negative. And when we multiply the natural numbers, which is 4 multiplied by 4, that is 16. This means that a positive 4 multiplied by a negative 4, the answer is a negative 16. Let's look at number 2. So now I have a negative 9 divided by a positive 1. There's two things that you can think of here. We are dividing a negative number with a positive number. And also, that particular positive number is a 1. So remember, you can also think of those properties of 1 and you would know what the answer is going to be there. So because I am dividing a negative number with a positive number, our answer is going to be a negative. And 9 divided by 1, remember the properties of 1, any number divided by 1 will be that number. So that means that our answer is a negative 9. So negative 9 divided by a positive 1 is a negative 9. Let's move on to number 3. Now, number 3, we have a positive number divided by a negative number. But before we can do the division, we have to look at that 6 squared. So we are squaring a positive number. And if you remember, all numbers that we square will be positive. So a positive 6 multiplied by a positive 6 is going to give us a positive 36. And we are now going to divide that by a negative 3. And what is a positive number divided by a negative number? We know that the answer is going to be negative. And then what is 36 divided by 3? That answer is going to be a 12. That means that 6 squared divided by a negative 3, the answer is a negative 12. Let's continue with more multiplication and division. Now we have 9 squared divided by a negative 3. Again, we are going to look at that 9 squared, and that is 9 multiplied by 9. 9 multiplied by 9 is a positive 81. We are going to divide that by a negative 3. We are dividing a positive number with a negative number. So that means that my answer is going to be negative. And what is 81 divided by 3? Yes, if you are thinking of 27, you are absolutely correct. Let's move on to the next one. Here we have a positive 3 multiplied by 5 squared. So we are going to start with that square, and that is going to be a 5 multiplied by a 5. And 5 multiplied by 5, remember, we are squaring, the answer is going to be positive. Even if it were a negative 5, the answer was still going to be positive because we are squaring. But now we are dealing with a positive 5, and a positive 5 multiplied by a positive 5 is 25. Now, I am multiplying two positive numbers. So a positive number multiplied by a positive number. So 3 multiplied by 25, that will give us a nice 75. Okay. Let's move on to more questions. Now, we have there the square root of 64 divided by a negative 2. Remember, when we are working with a square root, we need to be very careful. Here, we've been given a positive square root. That is a positive square root of 64. If they wanted the negative square root of 64, they would have written it like that, the negative square root of 64. And from that answer, the answer would also be a negative value. But that is not what we are given here. We are given a positive square root, which means that our answer from that is going to be a positive. And what is the square root of 64? We know that 64 comes from 8 squared. So that means that our answer from that is going to be a positive 8. And when we divide with a negative 2, we just need to remember that we are dividing a positive number with a negative number. And what is 8 divided by a negative 2? Yes, the answer is going to be a negative 4. Let's go on to number 7. Now, if you look at the top of our fraction there, we have a negative 4. So a negative square root of 4. A negative square root of 4 is telling us that they want the negative square root. Remember, a square number can come from a positive number or a negative number. So now we've been asked here for the negative square root of 4. And the negative square root of 4 is a negative 2. And we are going to divide that by a negative 1 cubed. So remember, negative 1 cubed means that it's going to be a negative 1 multiplied by 1 multiplied by 1, which is still a negative 1. And because I am dividing two negative numbers, this means that my answer is going to be positive. So we know that from this expression, our answer is going to be positive. A negative 2 divided by a negative 1, again, if we know that our answer is going to be positive, and we just take those natural numbers, that means we are saying 2 divided by 1. And when we think of the properties of 1, any number divided by 1 remains that number. So 2 divided by 1 is 2. That means that our answer there is a positive 2. Let's move on to some application questions. So these are questions that will be including multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. And when we are working with multiple operations, we need to remember that we are working on either sides of the addition and the subtraction. Let's look at the first one there. So as number 1 there, we have a negative 10 plus a 5 multiplied by a negative 3. We are going to be working on either sides of the addition or subtraction. In this case, we just have an addition. That means we are going to say there that the negative 10 plus, and we are going to work with what is in the bracket there, that is the 5 multiplied by a negative 3. Remember, if I'm multiplying a positive number with a negative number, then my answer is going to be negative. And the answer from there is 5 multiplied by 3, and that is a 15. Now, we are no longer adding or we are no longer multiplying or dividing, but we are adding two negative numbers. We are going to be saying negative 10 plus a negative 15. And if your answer is a negative 25, then you are absolutely correct. Well done to you. Let's look at the next one. We have there a negative 3 multiplied by a positive 20 minus a positive 10 divided by a positive 5. So what is going to happen there? Again, we are working on either sides of the addition or subtraction. So that means that I'm going to work with these two integers first, and then I'm going to work with these two integers also. Negative 3 multiplied by 20, a negative number multiplied by a positive number gives us a negative answer. And what is 3 multiplied by 20? That is, of course, our 60. So that is negative 60 there. We are going to subtract 10 divided by 5. It's two positive numbers, and we are dividing, so that means that we are going to have a positive answer because both of them are positive. And when we say 10 divided by 5, we know that that answer there is 2. Now what's happening there in the next step? We are subtracting a negative number and a positive number. A negative 60 minus a positive 2. What answer do you have there? If your answer is a negative 62, then you are doing great. Well done to you. Let's quickly go to an ad break before we can continue with our work. We'll see you just now.